All right, folks, and welcome to the Malzberg Panel. And joining us once again is our friend, the former Special Assistant to President George W. Bush, and a columnist extraordinaire in his own right. We welcome in Ron Christie. Hello, Ron. How are you, sir? And of course, we read you at the Daily Beast. I want to talk. There's this plot that I talked about at the beginning of the hour before Congressman Gohmert came aboard. And the FBI is now looking for a recent Army recruit who they believe, after interviewing him and letting him go, that he's planning a jihad like Fort Hood against American soldiers. It begs two questions to me. One, I know the FBI is limited, has had their hands put in handcuffs to a great extent when it comes to how they could address and what questions they could ask a person like that. But if they determined and have now issued a report that says planned Fort Hood-inspired jihad against U.S. soldier by Army recruit, why'd they ever let him go? And by the way, isn't the official government position that it was not jihad at Fort Hood, that it was workplace violence?
Workplace violence, and this from the administration that has also brought you overseas contingency operations, otherwise known as terrorism attacks. I think it shows that the Obama administration has really tied one, if not both hands behind our law enforcement community. They want to give terrorists and suspected terrorists our protection of the courts, our First Amendment rights, the right to, of course, plead the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination, where these terrorists should be tried in military tribunals as enemy combatants of the state. So when you start with that premise, Steve, nothing that this administration does really surprises me. I just am at a loss for words as to why a suspected jihadist who the FBI was hot on the trail of, and of course had thought that this person might want to do another Fort Hood-inspired attack, would be let go. I just think it's sheer madness.
We also had testimony today as a CIA officer testified, a station chief in Libya, testified that before the Obama administration came out with this inaccurate narrative on national television about there being a protest that culminated in the attack in Benghazi, this station chief pointedly told his superiors in Washington that there was no such demonstration, this according to documents and interviews with current and former intelligence officials. The attack was not an escalation of protests, according to the station chief. He wrote that directly to then Deputy CIA Director Michael Morrell in an email dated September 15, 2012, a full day before the White House sent Susan Rice out to put forth that phony narrative. The more you look at it, the more we learn. It just stinks more and more.
Well, it does, Steve, and I'll tell you another thing that really disturbs me about this, because I thought about this earlier today, and I thought, if there was no protest, then there was no video that people were protesting. If there was no video that prompted a protest, then why would the administration seek out in the middle of the night the individual who created this film and lock him up in jail for the better part of a year when they knew that there was no protest and that it was not a demonstration inspired by a video? It just seems to me that the more that you peel back the onion on this, the administration seems to lie, obfuscate, and otherwise not level with the American people about a tragic incident in which not only were 4 Americans, including our ambassador, killed, but it also lays to question why on the anniversary of 9/11, which was a big terrorist attack against our nation, were we not on better military readiness where we could have protected our personnel overseas?
No, absolutely. Great questions. And, of course, they locked him up on some technicality for parole violation or something. But obviously, I mean, Hillary Clinton told the parents at the when the coffins were brought back, we're going to get the man who made the film. So they were going to get him, and they got him, and that was pre-planned and predetermined. And that is frightening.
It really is. And it shows you, and it also ties in, I think, why so many Americans are really fearful about the IRS political intimidation, or the alleged intimidation, I should say, because it shows that this administration will use the coercive nature of the government, be it the Justice Department or be it through the police powers of the IRS, to harass American citizens that they deem are political opponents. And I just think that is so chilling. And frankly, everyone says Nixon was the one who was the one who wanted to really use the government to manipulate it against his enemies. But this administration's actually doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And let me ask you about this. The reluctance on the part of John Boehner, not just reluctance, he won't do it, period, to appoint or convene a special committee on Benghazi, a select committee on Benghazi, to get to the bottom of this. Now, there's two schools of thought here, and his school of thought, publicly at least, is that the more committees that are doing it, the more information we'll get, and it'll stifle some ongoing investigations. And I don't know where you fall on this, but most people seem to say we need a select committee to once and for all get to the bottom of this. Where do you weigh in?
I think that's right, and it pains me to say it because I've been friends with the Speaker of the House for over 20 years, but enough is enough. The administration continues to drag its feet on being very forthcoming about what happened that night, both in Benghazi as well as what the President of the United States was doing that evening. Were there stand-down orders given that would have otherwise been able to allow military personnel to come to the assistance of our brave men and women, 4 of whom ultimately died? The time has long since come, and this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is an American issue where I think the American citizens have a right to know what their government was doing, what their government wasn't doing, and if there were actions that could have been taken and were not taken. We also need to know why was that the case.
But Ron, the only scandal out there, the media will tell you. Of course, every Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, if I'm not mistaken, every Democrat on that committee last week voted to end the Benghazi investigation. They will tell you that the only scandal out there, if you give them a multiple choice list, is of course Bridgegate. There's no IRS scandal. There's no Benghazi scandal. There's no Obamacare scandal. There's only Bridgegate.
Well, there's only a Bridgegate, and I would also encourage the Speaker, if you want to talk about trying to get to the heart of a matter and the truth of the American people, I would have a House resolution brought on the House floor holding Lois Lerner in contempt. If that passes by a majority, I would have the House Sergeant at Arms take her and lock her in the jail beneath the Capitol until she is more forthcoming. She did not properly invoke her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And unlike your typical contempt charges, the House or the Senate may pass their own contempt charge and then incarcerate the individual until they are willing to testify. And I think Lois Lerner, more than anybody else, knows what's at the heart of political corruption at the IRS, and the American people, once again, Steve, deserve to know the right of what actually happened or didn't happen with the government agency that is really in charge of not only collecting our taxes, but can throw us in jail if we fail to do so.
But there's not a smidgen of impropriety or corruption. And by the way, I didn't hear what they said. I read the closed captioning a little bit while they were doing it. But boy, Obama and Biden went on for a long time in that Rose Garden, spiking the football, doing their victory lap, with now 7.1 million enrollees or sign-ups or whatever they're calling them for Obamacare. It's just it just defies logic.
Well, I think the best analogy you can put there, and I heard this the other day, and I wish I could give them credit because I can't remember who said it, but it's as if there were 7 million people who are on Amazon and they put an item in their shopping cart.
Yeah, in the cart.
But they
don't
never
pay
bought
for it. Yeah.
We don't know how many people have clicked the let's go to buy Obamacare. We know how many people may have gone through the website. We don't know how many duplicates there are, how many false entries, and frankly, how many people have actually gotten insurance through this. So for them to spike the football, I think once again it's more about their political showmanship rather than the reality of how they've actually really destroyed our insurance system here in America.
Ron Christie, always great to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
You too. Ron Christie, former Special Assistant to President George W. Bush, Daily Beast columnist. When we come back, Dr. Erica is here to get you healthy. Don't miss it.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.